Yeah, we're just jumping right in here. Whoops. I forgot my countdown. So whoopsies. My apologies. But that, you know what that means though? It means we get going like a whole extra minute earlier today than usual, which is good, right? That's good. Well, that means we'll finish like a whole minute earlier than usual. So,
I don't know about that.
I guess oh, see, look, already Sapphire oh no, sorry. Hi Sapphire. That's good. I was looking at something else. Chrissy's here. Yay, hi Chrissy. But a bunch of people are trickling in here. Allegedly, Fred is here. Tree Climb Tad says, "What's the over under on how soon into the video Mike?" Oh wow, yeah. And when Mike starts yelling, he does that a lot now. I've noticed. He's kind of a yelly guy. He yells a lot. So, Ben Vaughn says, "I never get to actually be here for the live version. Can't wait to be blown away by Mike's evidence and logic." Did you probably didn't, because I mean, like, Vish mostly just shows up and does her job. She doesn't take a lot of time. I tell her kind of what we're doing, but she doesn't actually take the time very often to look at the thumbnails or the descriptions or things like that, right? Like, so maybe I think I mentioned it to you, Vish, that at the end of this video that we're going to be watching today, Mike Jones says that he's got the best evidence for the conquest of Canaan. So prepare to be blown away. There's a good chance that one of us or both of us may become convinced. I'm open to that possibility. So yeah. Do you have time to hear about our Lord and Savior, Chairman Mao Zedong, whose thought is immortal?
Good.
Oh, John wants to see the shirt. Because guys, I fucking love the Bible. So I've got a backup now, because there's that one, and now I also have a copy of the explicit version. Yeah, by the way, everybody can buy these at my store. If you fucking love the Bible as much as I do, and you want the world to hear it, then I have a shirt for you. Or no, actually, I don't have I fucking love the Bible or hoodies. There's also hoodies. I don't wear hoodies, so I don't have any. I just have t-shirts. But yeah, it's so yes, if you if you're at all interested, that's where you can find those. I also particularly like Vish's hat. She's not I feel like I have to insist, because she's not showing him, but Vish needs to show everybody her Peach Fuzz mascot. Can we make this the show can we make it the show mascot? There he is. Oh god.
His little Aaron VHS tape and his little
Aaron VHS tape and his axe.
His little axe.
So good. So good. I just I love it. Wonderful.
Yeah. You can buy these now. They re-released them.
Oh, like oh wow. Can you where can you buy them?
Let me grab the link.
That'd be great, because I think most of our audience wants their own Peach Fuzz. I'm quite sure of it. But does Vish look at toenails? Oh, I don't know. It's good to see you, Katie. I'm not sure. I'm not sure where this came from, but because thumbnails, right? Because you don't look at the thumbnails. Do you look at toenails?
Oh, okay, I see.
I get it now. Very funny. Wordle Rock Hyrix, Evan. Katie Lewis, is good to see you. Katie's in my my Hebrew class, reading Hebrew through the book of Jonah. And we're over halfway through that class now, and I think everyone's coming along quite nicely. If you're looking for a dumb Catholic apologist, I've got a guy who hates the NRSV and thinks that the sin of Sodom wasn't in hospitality. Oh, good to know. Yeah. Feel free to send that my way. It's good to see you, Brandon. And Ben. Oh yeah, right. You're holding onto your socks. That's good. Cuneiform guy says, does Mao Zedong sit in a chair?
Say what you will, he was right about landlords.
Yeah, he was. Chuck is here for Michael Jones and staying for Vish's hat. Brilliant. Good to see you, Melly. And Aosid H. Hi. So Chuck has his own Metal Moses shirt, which you can also get from my store. So
if I were to guess, I would say the first syllable is Is, because I know that AO.
Okay.
There's a name Aoife that starts out that way, so this could be like a Gaelic.
That's cool. I like it. Let us know. East.
Yeah.
East or East? East.
I forget what the BH represents.
Looks like your device is not registered. For help, go to the Harman Kardon Alexa app.
God damn it. Hold on. Let me
Well, while he does that, if you want your own peach fuzz, for those of you who have seen Creep 2, or the Creep tapes, you can get.
Even if you haven't, and you want your own peach fuzz
shirt. Yeah. So.
All right. Yeah. So Katie's asking for an I fucking love the Bible Catholic edition with the Sacred Heart. Yeah. What is a Sacred Heart?
It's like a heart, but it has a little tube or artery coming out where the flames are coming out of the top of the artery. Sometimes there's thorns around it too.
Oh, I've seen. Yeah. No, that's a great idea. I'll make a Catholic version too at some point. That's good. Is the hat also a creep reference? I'm forgetting.
No,
I don't think it is. It no, don't think so. It's just Smooth Criminal, guys. So Katie does say it is a really good class. Thank you for the endorsement. So yes, Maya, Smooth Criminal. We need a Dagon the Abomination shirt. Yeah, that's a good idea too. Dagon doing a metal assault on a defenseless tree t-shirt. That's a good idea. There's a few actually that I would put into the works. Were you able to post the link? For
I posted it when you stepped away.
Nice. Awesome. All right. So well, now that I'm back, we might as well get into this, right? So
yeah,
the last few weeks we stepped away from this for a few weeks, but Maya would buy that Dagon shirt. Okay. Or the Immaculate Heart, which has roses and swords. Boy, there's a lot to choose from. I guess I shall just work on the inventory. So yeah, we'll see what we can do. So we've been away from this for a few weeks, but some of you might remember that last month we spent a few streams going through a lecture that Michael Jones from Inspiring Philosophy gave at a church. I have said that I believe it was a church in Boston, and he was giving a talk there during the ETS meeting in November. He gave a talk all about
to come to SBO.
He's too scared.
Too scared.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably too woke for him. Bunch of wokesters in SBL. So so he, he gave this talk about all the compelling evidence for the Exodus and for the conquest, and has this really this annoying bad habit of citing sentence fragments from scholars. And so we've been going through a lot of the stuff that Michael's been citing. We've been going through a lot of stuff that he's just been missing to address the problems with this presentation, with this model of the Exodus and the conquest. And we left off last time with a pretty extensive discussion of the altar on Mount Ebal, which is on the wrong side of the mountain.
Yep.
That has been suggested by a number of apologists as well as scholars that this is actually Joshua's altar, but it's on the wrong side of the mountain. So
it's on the wrong side of the valley.
Well,
no, it's on the right side of the valley, but it's on the wrong side of the mountain. Like, it's not the top of the peak. It's like slightly down at a lower peak. Like, what?
I don't know. I feel like it's actually another valley that it probably overlooks more. It's closer to the next valley over, really.
Yeah.
But it's so much, and I mean, this was such a problem. This was such a problem that the archaeologist who did the work on this, who promoted this as Joshua's altar, actually also ended up suggesting a different location, the for Mount Gerizim, because he recognized that this was a problem. He recognized, the altar's on the wrong side of the mountain. This does not work with the biblical story. So maybe Mount Gerizim is actually on the other side. But then, of course, you're rewriting all the geography, because then like the Jezreel Valley has to be on the other, and it just isn't, right? It's just not. It's not there. Like, these are the names of the mountains. This is the place. So yeah, it's bad. It's all very bad. But that's kind of where we left them. We had a lot to say, and I also played a video from Bob Cargill, who was the founder of Bible and Archaeology, which is currently being operated by friend of the channel, Jordan Jones. By the way, Jordan was away on a trip to Greece last month with a group of students from the University of Iowa. He's back now, and he did just reach out to me a couple days ago, and he's ready to come back and read Hebrew with me, which is fantastic. But yeah, the Hebrew streams will not be resuming until August now. At this point, I have a move coming up here in 2 weeks, so I'm going to be taking the next 2 weeks off, as well as the first week of August, to get things sorted out and resettled. But then I'll be back in mid-August to continue. So this is going to be our last stream for a little while, and it feels kind of appropriate that we finish up before going on a 3-week hiatus with this last installment from Michael's lecture about the Exodus and the conquest. I'm just going to pull this up because Eric Mickelson says it's the wrong Mount Gerizim. Wouldn't the Samaritans know this? I mean, it's their mountain, isn't it? Yeah. So oh, hi, Petite Flowers. It's good to see you. John, I'm sorry. I don't know how to help you for the next 3 weeks. So I do hope everyone comes back. And when we do come back, there will be some new stuff to look at.
I was gonna make a 3 weeks joke and a Tisha
You
B'Av
still can.
reference, but I think only like 2 people in the audience will get
Probably
it.
true. That's probably true. Yeah. So, yeah. All right. Well, let's. Oh, I think we do have a super chat though already, don't we? Tree Climb Tad for $2 says, very excited to hear whatever IP freely pukes out. Very nice. Good. All right. Well, let's pull up the video. While you're gone, Vish should do streams where she talks about horror movies and weird shit from her rabbinical studies. It's a good idea. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good idea, but Vish is gonna do her thing.
Yeah, it would be nice if I also had a move coming up, even though I've moved twice in the last 6 months and I don't want to do it again.
Yeah. Yeah,
So.
it's terrible. It's really, really terrible. Maya's worried she might completely forget who I am in 3 weeks. Are you still going to stop by a certain channel for bingo? Yes. My viewing habits may not change so much as my streaming habits. So yeah, I will I will certainly be on hand in Bad Science Sunday for bingo. Oh, it's good to see you, Marin. What kind of shenanigans is happening today? It's well, look, it's Michael Jones from Inspiring Philosophy, and he's going to start here today by telling us all about the site of Hatzor and all the evidence from Hatzor for the conquest of Canaan.
Okay.
Or city down here. Very, very big city in the ancient world.
So what
does the archaeological record show? Well, it says there was a fierce conflagration. Basically, it burned. It marked the end of...
I'm sorry. I know I shouldn't make fun of people for mispronouncing words, but conflagration. Conflagration. He was adding a schwa and putting the emphasis on the wrong syllable.
Mm-hmm.
Which I was doing yesterday in the Hebrew stream to the point that I had to turn on the cancellation marks. So
you corrected yourself.
The Canaanite Hazor,
which is I don't always do that.
A thick layer of ashes and charred wood in places 3 feet deep attests to the intensity of the blaze in the northern Galilee city. Within the walls of Hazor's palace, the fire was especially fierce. The unusual amount of timber used in the construction of the building and the large quantity of oil stored in huge pithoi throughout the palace proved a fatal combination, creating an inferno with temperatures exceeding 2,350 degrees Fahrenheit. In the intense heat, the palace's mud brick walls vitrified, basalt slabs cracked, and clay vessels melted. Now, not only was the city burned, but its idols, its gods, were mutilated. So somebody came in and decided to not only just burn the city, but they also mutilated and destroyed a lot of the...
One thing that archaeologists and actual scholars don't have a tendency to do is to call divine images idols, because that's not what they are. They're divine images. Idols implies that these are somehow deficient representations of deity, when in actual fact this is just what all representations of deity were in the ancient world. So no, these are not. These are divine images, Michael. These are statues and icons representing the gods and other cosmic beings.
This is one all seated on the top right there?
The jade kind of that looks like that could be a statue of Baal. So it's cool.
Okay.
So I suspect, I don't know, I didn't look into it. Maybe I should have. I do. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt that all of these were discovered in the ruins of Hatzor.
Okay.
But he's got an important point here to make about the idols, the divine images. At Hatzor.
So what they say is whoever burned the city also deliberately destroyed the statues in the palace. Among the ashes, we discovered the largest Canaanite statue of a human form ever found in Israel, carved from a basalt block that must have weighed more than a ton. The 3-foot tall statue had been smashed into nearly 100 pieces, which were scattered in a 6-foot wide circle. The head and the hands of the statue and several others were missing, apparently cut off by the city's conquerors. So who could have done this? Who could have destroyed the city and burned the pagan idols, or destroyed the pagan idols? Well, would the Canaanites have done this?
How did this happen?
And maybe I'm belaboring the point, but the other thing that actual scholars and archaeologists don't do is they don't identify certain objects as pagan, because that is a Christian pejorative for anything that's not Christian. And I mean, that's when we are doing actual science, when we are doing actual academic work, the intellectual rigor of investigating the past, one of the things we want to be extremely careful of on a regular basis is not prejudicing the information that we're presenting. Of course, Michael Jones doesn't know, or he probably just doesn't know this. He probably is unaware that pagan is specifically a Christian pejorative. But if he does, it's even worse that he is just actively engaging in prejudicing the information in a presentation that he purports to be a sober account of the conquest.
So Lex Lotta says that they saw a video with Wes Huff pronouncing Lachish as Lakeish, as though it's a city. Lakeish.
Kind of like a lake. Maybe that's what he thinks it is. It was named because it's right next to the lake. Lakeish. It's kind of like a lake.
Yes.
Let's say there was an internal rebellion. The poor rose up and defeated the elders, the rulers, and all that stuff. They wouldn't have killed their own gods. They wouldn't have destroyed their own god. They would have brought curses upon themselves. Right. Can't be the Canaanites.
Can't be.
Was it the?
Oh, it just couldn't be. Yeah.
No, and I get extremely hesitant to say what could or could not have happened, or it couldn't have been this group of people, because we know that they would have somehow responded or behaved differently. But this is, I'm going to keep coming back to this point, and this is something that I said a number of times in the last streams that we've done on this topic with Michael Jones. One of the big problems with his model, with his presentation of how he thinks the archaeological record and the data and the material culture aligns with the biblical presentation of the end of the Bronze Age and the beginning of the Iron Age. One of the big problems with all that is that it does not factor nearly enough elements from the historical record into consideration in making a reconstruction of the history of the past. Something that we see as historians is that the past history is incredibly messy. It's not straightforward. There are all sorts of things to take into consideration that are going to muddy and muddle our perspective of things. Usually, the simplest explanation is not the best explanation because it's too simple. It just simply has not factored into consideration enough information and enough data. So, and I think this is indicative of that. The minute you start to say this group of people would never have behaved in this particular way, I would say, you're probably not using your imagination enough. You're not thinking through clearly enough all the possibilities which would cause people to act in a certain way. So Michael says it could not have been the Canaanites who destroyed Hatzor because they also defaced Canaanite gods, and Canaanites never would have done that. Not all Canaanites were exactly the same as all the other Canaanites, right?
Hashtag not all Canaanites.
There we go. Nice. So I don't think it's a nearly nuanced enough perspective to just say, well, the Canaanites would never have behaved this way. The Canaanites would never have done this. There's just a whole bunch we don't know about the Canaanites. And one of the things we don't know is how dramatically different or diverse many of their own cultural nuances and practices. Like we don't know how many Canaanites, or if all the Canaanites, held the same level of respect for the Canaanite gods equally.
Any ethnos and any religious group they're internally diverse. Everyone doesn't believe the exact same thing. I mean, even today, you could pick any group and be like, hey, do you all agree unanimously on all these things? And they would say no. So there have been people who don't respect the gods ever since the concept of gods became a thing. So to say like, oh, they would never do this, that's silly. There are absolutely people who would have done that, because there are people who do that today.
This is a good point. Didn't they each have their own patron gods? That seems to be something.
Often. Like cities,
local
especially.
settlements. They had their favorites. GoldenEye0242 says, if Canaanites didn't destroy Hatzor, I guess that rules out the Israelites.
Because they were, guess what? An offshoot of Canaanites.
They were. We talked a little bit about that in a couple of the previous responses to this video, and we'll talk a little bit more about that today yet too.
The Egyptians would raid through Canaan, destroying whatever they wanted. Well, as you can see, some of the gods there were Egyptian gods. The Egyptians also would not destroy their own gods.
Wait, what? I have questions. Because we know of several periods where a certain pharaoh, like Akhenaten, was like, "Oh, hey, everybody, we're just gonna worship the sun disk now, the Aten." So, yeah, we're gonna build all the temples and just do Aten stuff. And the priests were like, "This is unacceptable." So when he died, they were like, "We're just going right back to the old ways," and that's why his son was renamed from Tutankhaten to Tutankhamun. And they went around trying to deface and obliterate as much stuff from his dad as they could, because that was not an acceptable way to engage in ritual practice. So, I wouldn't say that.
We only know about that because the records we have for that period from Egypt are pretty good. They're not like amazing, but they're still pretty good. Much better than any kind of records we have about the individual cities and towns in Canaan in the 12th century, in the 13th and the 12th century BCE. Almost Susan says here, and thank you for this. I used to explain exonyms to my world religion students by telling them nobody says I worship idols.
Correct. This is something that Protestants really can't wrap their brain around a lot of time when they're engaging with like Eastern Orthodox icons or Roman Catholic like images and statues, because they're like, oh, those are idols. It's like, no, they function exactly the same way as old divine images did. They manifest the presence of that deity, or they invoke that particular saint or entity. So no, they wouldn't consider them idols. That's ridiculous. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Something else here brought up by Lex Lada Del Norte. Ex-soldier here. Soldiers smash all kinds of shit.
They do. And I really hate that.
Yeah.
Like, there's huge. I just watched a video on Assyria this week, and ISIS going through and smashing and destroying like gigantic Lamassu statues. That really pisses me off, because it's like, hey, you don't have to worship those things, but that's a part of history that I think should be preserved. But
it's terrible. It's unfortunate.
So
lots of
this
times
is one of
it's
those
indiscriminate
things
too.
I want to tell the pseudo historians that are like, there could have been all these ancient lost high technology civilizations and all these other things. We just haven't found the evidence yet. And I'm like, well, maybe they would want to lean into fundamentalism a little bit, because we know that cultures practice a form of damnatio memoriae. So you could just say, well, the reason we don't find Atlantis is because somebody came back and destroyed all the remnants. But that's
yeah,
dumb.
right.
So, shall we resume?
Yeah, let's resume.
Could it have been invading Philistines? We know they started living on the coast around this region. They came from the Aegean Greek world. Well, they never made it this far inland. There's no evidence Philistines moved in. So,
weren't we just talking about the potential of David being homies with the Philistines and potentially one of them? That's spicy.
Yes. But he says, notice when he said here, there's no evidence that the Philistines came this far inland and moved in. Yes, that's true. That does not preclude them from going around and destroying other cities, other settlements, that they didn't occupy or live in. Not every single town or city, and that's a really important part of somebody's loving your hat here.
Yeah,
Vish.
people really like this hat.
They really
I
do.
didn't expect that.
It's a great hat, guys. It's the first thing I noticed when she came on today. So yeah, it's we all approve. So, but one of the features of a lot of the sites in the region that were destroyed at the end of the Bronze Age and the beginning of the Iron Age, and I'll remind everybody that these sites are usually isolated by archaeologists into a period of about 200 years. So it's a prolonged period of time. It's over the course of 2 centuries, a bunch of these places were destroyed, and a whole bunch of them were just abandoned. They were not reoccupied. They were not settled. A point that Michael's going to make here is that the Israelites they destroyed Hatzor. They did not settle Hatzor. Why not the Philistines? Why could the Philistines not have destroyed Hatzor and then moved on, deciding not to occupy or rebuild Hatzor?
I have an explanation for that. Kip, you didn't consider reasons. The Philistines couldn't have destroyed it because of reasons.
Reasons. Okay. Got it. Got it. Thank you for setting me straight.
I wasn't going to say it. Now I have to. Vish looks like she's going to sell me an illegal bank account.
Nice.
My dad used to wear hats like this. And when he passed, I guess a part of me was like, you know what? Those hats look cool. I should start wearing Panama hats like him. So maybe that's where it comes from.
I don't have a Panama hat, but I have a sombrero that I quite like.
I have a few hats. I don't often wear them. I mean, I would say the most I definitely wear hats is when I'm doing Jewish communal ritual events, because it's just less of a hassle than trying to clip on a kippah or wrap my hair up in a tichel or whatever. So I just am like, flip, pop a hat on, good to go.
Nice. Awesome. All right. Let's continue.
But what do the archaeologists say? This leaves us with the Israelites, is what they say. At the end of the day, when we look at the possible people who are going to destroy this, the most likely candidate who destroyed Hazor would be the Israelites. When was the destruction? In the 1200s, late 1200s. Around the same time that Mount Ebal Elder is being built, Jericho suddenly goes missing.
Mount Ebal Elder? I think he meant altar.
I think so.
It's all right. Maybe
Notice-
he's been going for 45 minutes at this point, so
It's
he's
true.
probably tired
Yeah.
and his brain's starting to go crazy. Mine does that too.
Yeah. Notice this is
Same
he says that this
issues
is
as well.
what this is what the archaeologists say. All of them apparently have this are of this singular opinion, as archaeologists are famous for doing. They all agree about everything, as is the case in every field, right? So the archaeologists agree. Look, we have no real evidence of who destroyed
Hazor, but my Bible says it was the Israelites, so it has to be them. Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's his reasoning for a lot of stuff. Yeah, well, people who study this for a living say one thing, but my Bible says another, so I'm going with that. Good job, guy.
Go with that.
So when we look at all this data, you have a couple sites that are aligning quite well. But what about Shiloh? Okay. When we look at the timeline of Shiloh, Shiloh was being
move on to Shiloh. Let's talk a little bit more about Hazor. And at this point, I'm going to do what I really like doing in this presentation, is looking at some actual archaeologists to see what they're actually saying about these things.
I'm gonna grab a quick snack.
All right. And before I jump into this, I did see that I've got another super chat here from Mr. Rep for $5. Thank you very much. Curse you, Vish and Kip. I was rewatching Plagiarism and YouTube, and every time he says word for word, I think of your Wes Huff clip. Well, you know what? I feels like we're doing our job here.
Word for word. Word for word. Word for word.
Wow. And you're welcome for that.
Wow.
Wow. Some things just never get old. Okay, I'm gonna put that down. So this is excellent book. Shoot, what is this one? This is the Archaeology of the Land of the Bible, Volume 1, 10,000 BCE, 10,000 to 586 BCE. It's a gigantic book. It was published in 1990. It's it's a lot of this stuff is dated. It's still a phenomenal resource because he tends to have something to say about just about everything in the region, which I think is really valuable. So just reading here about what he says here about Hazor, starting at the top here with the Israelite settlement. Intensive archaeological surface surveys. Remember, we talked about this last time about how, yes, the archaeologists have in fact combed the region through these extensive surface surveys. These revealed an entirely new settlement pattern in Iron Age 1. Hundreds of new small sites were inhabited in the mountainous area of Upper and Lower Galilee, in the hills of Samaria and Ephraim, in Benjamin, in the northern Negev, and in parts of central and northern Transjordan. Much of this activity can be related to Israelite tribes, though the ethnic attribution in some of these regions is still questionable. Okay? In the Upper Galilee, within the allotment of the tribe of Naphtali, some 25 such settlements have been discovered. These were centered around Mount Meron. Additional sites were discovered on the hills of Western Galilee in the tribal territory of Asher. The Galilee sites are small agricultural villages, approximately 1 acre in area. An exception is the well-planned fortress uncovered at Har Adir. At both Hazor and Dan, the most important mounds in the Hula Valley, occupational strata attributable to the Israelites have come to light. At Hatzor, there was a small village, strata 12 to 11, on the upper mound. At Dan, on the other hand, the settlement of the tribe of Dan was identified over the entire area of the mound, some 25 acres. Its principal components were silo pits, flimsy structures, and bronze industries installations. These components were found in 2 successive levels, strata 6 to 5. Where does he go on? I thought this is where he talked more extensively about Hatzor itself. I may be in the wrong place, and my apologies for that. I am, but that's okay, because something that he's talking about here is something that is going to come up again, and that is the settlements of the region that Michael's going to bring attention to here shortly. But we're going to shift here to another publication by Amahai Mazar. This is Israel Finkelstein's and Amahai Mazar's book of collected essays, The Quest for the Historical Israel, Debating Archaeology and the History of Early Israel. So Amahai Mazar has this to say about Hatzor. This 70-hectare city was the largest in Canaan, as Michael correctly pointed out. Several times larger than any other Canaanite city in the region, and the capital of a sizable city-state that is well attested in the second millennium documents from Mari on the Euphrates and from Egypt. The definition of Hatzor in Joshua 11:10 as formerly the head of all those kingdoms fits its status in the second millennium BCE and could not have been invented when the book of Joshua was probably composed in the 7th century BCE or later, a time when Hatzor had no importance. The reference to the burning of Hatzor in Joshua 11, verse 11, an exception in this respect to all the other conquered cities, is supported by the archaeological evidence. A tremendous fire destroyed the Canaanite palace at Hatzor and its temples sometime during the 13th century BCE, probably during the first half of this century. Yigal Yadin did not hesitate to identify the conquerors as the Israelites led by Joshua. Amnon ben Tor, the current excavator of the site, finds no other candidates for the destroyers of Hatzor more appropriate than the Israelites or proto-Israelites. So I think I'll pause there for a second before I finish the paragraph here. But in broad strokes, right, this aligns basically with what Michael is telling us, that the destruction at Hatzor appears to have been undertaken by the Israelites, whoever these people were, and likely on the basis of a couple of the items that he's pointed out, it matches the time period of the 13th century BCE, when the city of Hatzor was destroyed in a massive fire, or I should say, the royal quarter of the city was destroyed in a massive fire, and that's something I want to get back to here in a second as well. However, as pointed out, identifying who these Israelites actually were, identifying them as a distinct part of the population of Canaan, becomes considerably more difficult when we factor in all the pieces of data. So here, Mazar is going to continue. I would explain the biblical description as a reflection of historical memories about the traumatic event that brought an end to Hatzor, the largest city in Canaan. Such memories could have been retained among the Canaanite population that remained in the country during the 12th and 11th centuries and eventually were incorporated into Israelite tradition in the late monarchic period when the conquest was attributed to Joshua. The antiquity of the memory itself is significant. though the identification of the 13th century BCE destroyers of Hatzor remains enigmatic. So, what he's saying here is that, yes, at Hatzor, we have an example of a destruction that does appear to match the expectation from the biblical text about what took place at the end of the Bronze Age and the beginning of the Iron Age. It looks like if there was a site that was a good candidate for Israelite destruction, it would be the city of Hatzor in the 13th century BCE. All of that is in fact true. What that does not get us to is that the book of Joshua is an historical document. It doesn't get us that far. It doesn't get us far enough to the point that these were the Israelites as we understand them from the biblical text. This is a group of people which are probably most closely identifiable with Proto-Israelites, based mostly on the time period and the description from the Bible of the destruction of Hatzor, but in no way is it assured that this is Joshua's army coming in and laying waste to the place. An archaeologist by the name of Igor Kremerman wrote a very good article in Aegis from a few years ago. Do I have the year here? 2017, where he grouped all the destructions in the Levant during the period of the Bronze Age and the Iron Age into categories on the basis of their destruction, the level of destruction that took place in these cities. And he sets his focus on the city of Hatzor at one point, and I'll show you what he has to say about that, because it is it's classified as a type. I think it's either a type 1 or a type 2 destruction, which is essentially the entire city. And this is important because this is the way the book of Joshua presents the story. When the book of Joshua talks about the destruction of the city of Hatzor, it says that they burned the entire city. That's what the text says. In discussing the city of Hatzor, Kremerman sets his focus on something called crisis architecture and termination rituals, which I wanted to read here because I think it's interesting in terms of especially gaining a stronger sense of some of the things that archaeologists do in their evaluation of ruins, of sites that they are investigating. And I think it's instructive for how we understand what happened at the end of the Bronze Age and the beginning of the Iron Age. So the term crisis architecture was proposed by Driesen in 1995 to describe specific and sudden short-term architectural changes that come as a response to situations of social crisis. Driesen suggested 3 correlates for identifying crisis architecture. First is a decrease of energy input in production and maintenance. Second, a change of original function and change of original plan. These can be identified in the use of cheaper or scavenged buildings, materials for construction, the partial abandonment of buildings, disrepair, inner partitioning of walls, restriction of access, the placement of domestic installations in corridors along the main axis of movement or in previously public spaces. The concept of termination rituals was first suggested for Mesoamerican archaeology for describing actions of razing and rebuilding of public buildings and temples by the local community. These actions included the breaking, burning, and scattering of portable objects and sculptures, and the razing or burial of monumental structures. Zuckerman adopted the concept and suggested that when these signs are found in the broader context of crisis architecture, they should be seen as evidence of intentional desecration of the temples as part of social decline. Zuckerman then identified evidence for crisis architecture and termination rituals in 3 strata. Strata 13 at Chatzor, Stratum 7a at Megiddo, and level 6 at Lachish. Both of these concepts can contribute to our understanding of the processes that brought about the final destruction of several sites. However, the identification of these phenomena is in many cases very difficult for a few reasons. First, no other site in the southern Levant has produced so many royal and cultic monuments as Chatzor. Since both crisis architecture and termination rituals are best identified in such contexts, their identification turns more problematic in other sites. Thus, although the evidence for crisis architecture that Zuckerman presented at Megiddo and Lachish is compelling, the evidence for termination rituals is more challenging, since the breaking of statues in times of destruction or evidence for fire in the public structures could also result from conflict rather than from termination rituals. Furthermore, at Lachish 6, the whole site was burned, including private buildings. So there is no concrete evidence for a distinction between public and private structures. Consequently, the identification of termination rituals requires a great deal of interpretation, and although it might serve as an important interpretational approach in in-depth studies, it is considered here as an auxiliary correlate. But one that I think is kind of significant when speaking of especially the site of Chatzor. He points this out, right? That because we have so much royal and elite level material remains at Chatzor, from which archaeologists have been able to gauge information, the ideas of crisis architecture and termination rituals works to help explain what happened at Chatzor. Now, something that's really significant about that is the way that crisis architecture and termination rituals are understood. I don't know if you caught that, audience. Did you catch that, Vish? These are signs of social upheaval. These are signs of some kind of internal conflict. People within the city destroying their own places, essentially, in forms of revolt, in forms of protest. I mean, this is stuff that still happens today, right?
Mm-hmm.
People get angry and they destroy shit. It's part of the ritual of protest, and it's been going on for thousands of years. But one of the things that archaeologists are doing is evaluating these remains, looking at them and going, what do these indicate as some of the possible causes for these sorts of destruction?
Yay!
For those who were not here last week after the stream, I encourage you to go back and check out last week's show where Shang Tsai and CJ Cornthwaite joined me to talk about some resurrection of Jesus apologetics. It was a very good time. So
his ending says, or people just win the World Series and destroy shit. We just like destroying shit.
We just like destroying shit.
Yeah, maybe their soccer team lost or won and people just went
ape shit.
Yeah.
People do that kind of thing.
It was destroyed by rampaging Glasgow Rangers fans.
See, this is the thing.
Canaanite hooligans.
See, I live in Canada, and the last team to win the Stanley Cup was the last Canadian team to win the Stanley Cup was the Montreal Canadiens back in 1993. And I was just about to talk about this. In 1993, when the Montreal Canadiens won the Stanley Cup, they burned their city to the ground. Yes, like hundreds of millions of dollars of damage. Maybe not that much, but it was like many millions of dollars of damage. They just demolished their own city. In the year 1994, the following year, the Vancouver Canucks appeared in the Stanley Cup final and faced off against the New York Rangers. Game 7 was in New York City, and the Rangers won. And people in Vancouver got very angry and ran around and burned shit and broke windows and looted stores and beat the living shit out of each other. And this is what they did. And then the Vancouver Canucks were back in the Stanley Cup Finals in what year was that now? 2006? No. 2007, 2008. How old was Nick? Nick was 5 and he was born in 2009. Yes, it was 2009, 2010. One of those years. And they faced off against the Boston Bruins. And it went down to game 7, and game 7 was played in the city of Vancouver, and Vancouver lost once again, and once again burned the city down. They all went out, and this is just what people do. Vespasian also famously told his soldiers not to burn the temple in Jerusalem. Soldiers don't always listen, right? Like when you have that many in antiquity men amped up and in the heat of battle for hours, they're not easy to control. They're kind of going to do what they're going to do a lot of times. This is also selective involvement from cops, because anytime someone protests for human rights, they show up with full armor and shields and smoke canisters. But for a sports team, they're like, just grease the light poles, be all right. Yeah. But this is it, right? Like, break shit when they win, break shit when they lose. It's literal chimp behavior. It's like, but this is human behavior, right? There are untold number of reasons why a population would burn a city down. It doesn't always have to be invasion. That's not the only reason a city burns down.
This is my new headcanon for the Bronze Age collapse, is their version of the World Cup.
Yes, that's it, right? I like it. I really like it. So, okay. Importantly, we're in Hatzor is designated by Kramerman as a Type 2 destruction. You'll notice a Type 1 destruction is the complete burning of an entire city, which is not what happened at Hatzor. Importantly, this is not what happened at Hatzor. Michael did not mention this fact, that not the entire city of Hatzor was burned, as the biblical text says. What happened at Hatzor was a destruction of the public buildings on the Acropolis, palaces, temples, signs of power. That's what happened. So here, let's look at this with some depth. Type 2, signs of fire only in the public buildings. This type was already recognized by the late Sharon Zuckerman. It is characterized by signs of conflagration in the public buildings, while private buildings were usually spared. The public structures, as well as some private buildings, present a rich assemblage of pottery vessels. Metal objects are found, but not in the main halls and rooms, and only in relatively concealed places. Hoards have been recognized in a number of sites. No skeletons are found in these layers. The vast majority of the sites that were destroyed in this way were soon rebuilt with a similar town plan, although some were abandoned. Arrowheads are seldom found.
So it wasn't a fight.
Maybe not. Crisis architecture was identified by Zuckerman at Hatzor 13 and Megiddo 7a, and should also be identified at Bet Shean 6. See the changes between the local phases mentioned by Panitz Cohen and Mazar in 2009. So the best example of such destruction layer can be found at Hatzor 13, which is the late Bronze Age 2b. And this is the layer. This is the layer that Michael wants to identify with the Israelite conquest. Hatzor was the largest city of the southern Levant, measuring about 80 hectares in size. Before the destruction, there is evidence for crisis architecture. What does the crisis architecture means? The crisis architecture means that they are undergoing some sort of social shift and change. It's a social crisis. You'll remember crisis architecture is characterized by features such as less upkeep for public buildings. There's things are becoming more neglected. Certain buildings and structures are shifting in terms of their function. There are more temporary structures being erected in these places as well. So before the destruction at Hatzor, there is evidence for crisis architecture. Many public buildings were subdivided into smaller spaces. Installations were built with inferior materials and using inferior construction techniques in the main halls. Other cultic monuments were canceled, and some monumental statues were ritually burned. The destruction of the site was very violent and included a fierce fire, which is evidenced in all of the public buildings. Rich pottery assemblages of broken vessels were found in these structures, but prestige items were found only in the side rooms. A cache of cultic items, including 2 large bronze statues, was found in the ceremonial building at the center of the site. Notably, the monumental stone statues still in use were very violently mutilated and bear evidence for the use of sharp objects, while others were shattered into pieces. The domestic buildings tell a different story. Although some of them contain complete pottery vessels and other objects, some other buildings were evidently abandoned in an organized manner. In addition, the domestic buildings were not burned. Arrowheads or sling stones were not found in large numbers anywhere across the site. After the destruction, the site was abandoned for nearly 150 years.
So you're telling me this could have been just a proletarian uprising?
I mean, it kind of sounds like that, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It requires more than just simply looking, oh, there was a fire. Israel burned a city in the 13th century BC, and oh, look, there's evidence of a fire. This is lazy. It's lazy for Michael to not go into the details that actual archaeologists do when assessing these sites in order to build their models for what might or might not have happened.
Pues Miguel es tan perezoso.
What she said.
If you know, you know.
Yeah. London burned. Must have been the Israelites.
Yep.
So, yeah. So, just for further clarification, just for summary, everyone, when it comes to this sort of information, there's a lot more involved. And there's a lot of detail within these archaeological reports of these sites that don't necessarily make it into, mainstream media or into apologetic presentations of the facts of the situation. So I would suggest, I think it's likely that Michael is just simply unaware of this stuff, because I don't necessarily think he's that. I don't think he's reading this stuff very broadly at all. I think he's reading Kenneth Kitchen, and he's talking to David Falk, and that's essentially where his narrative comes from. And if they don't tell him, if he's not reading it in Kitchen's work, which is decades old by now as well, or if he's not hearing it from Falk himself, then he's not going to bother taking the time to look it up. No weapons, because the Israelites preferred to close in for
Capoeira. That's great. Capoeira, it's like a Brazilian style of like dance fighting. It kind of looks like drunken break dancing, but it's a fighting style.
That's cool. Yeah. Oh, sorry. No Bayesian masturbation. Get your act together, Michael.
Masturbation.
Masturbation.
Was that the doggo concurring?
Yes. Oh, hey, get in here. I have a window open, and the one little dog likes to just there's a planter out there. I'm on the second floor here. Hey, get in here. Hey, thank you. She likes to just step out right onto the planter outside the window. Hey, you guys, I have treats for you. So, there you go. Oh, is there a treat for day? There you go, buddy. Okay. So, yeah. See, this is what happens when people enter my house. The dogs get upset. So, all right. So yeah, could it be evidence of Canaan warfare in real life?
I don't think so, because they only destroyed part of the city, and it was the like elites place. The just average folks' houses were fine.
Something that was fairly important from Creamerman's article, I'm not sure if you caught it, was that he says here that in the domestic buildings, they were evidently abandoned in an organized manner.
People were like, I don't like it. I'm out of here. It's fine.
Yeah.
I want none.
So,
or maybe the people that did the destruction left their houses to do it.
Yes, exactly. And then when they destroyed all the public buildings, they were like, you know what? This really doesn't seem like a great place to live anymore. So let's go live somewhere else.
Destruction menu. I'll have a number 4 animal style price wells.
Nice. Yeah, Zuckerman was Ben Tor's protege. He said they didn't find any sign of war, although Ben Tor and Yadin still thought it was the Israelites. Ben Tor used the same logic as IP. No writings from Egypt. Yeah, this is an important point. Thank you very much, John Gooderham, for bringing this up, because when Michael, you remember, Michael said, this is what the archaeologists have to say. The Israelites destroyed Chatzor. famously, importantly, even though this is something oftentimes outside of archaeological circles we don't hear much about, but famously, there are divided opinions among the experts about what happened at Hatzor. And yeah, while Ben-Tor continued to maintain Yedin's theory, Zuckerman, who was the co-excavator, the co-director of the site, disagrees. So she says, no, it's not the Israelites. So yeah. Don't the historical books of the Bible have Israelites periodically trashing the high places in Judea without having foreigners show up?
And vice versa.
Oh, yeah. So before we continue with the video, sorry, something else that I wanted to look at too was within the biblical text, right? Excuse me. We read of this massive destruction of Hatzor in the conquest stories in Joshua chapter 11. Joshua 10, Joshua 11. I think it's Joshua 11. But that's not the only place we read about Hatzor. Hatzor actually is destroyed again in the book of Judges. And it's interesting because one of the oldest Hebrew Bible texts there is the Song of Devorah. The Song of Devorah is about this battle that the Israelites fought against the king of Hatzor. His name's Yavin. Yavin's commander of his forces was named Sisera, according to the story, and according to the Song of Devorah. And Sisera was routed and killed by a woman. Got pegged to death. Guys, this pegging shit is dangerous, you guys. I think I don't know. I am not going to tell you what to do. You do what you guys do whatever you want, but I'm telling you, Sisera got pegged to death. So but I don't know. I thought it was worthwhile to look at. This is the earliest story we have of Hatzor. I've just got this up in Sepharia here. In Judges chapter 4, this is the Deuteronomists account. The Israelites again did what was offensive to Yahweh, Ehud now being dead. And Yahweh surrendered them to King Yavin of Canaan, who reigned in Hatzor. His army commander was Sisera, whose base was at Harosheth Goyim. The Israelites cried out to Yahweh, for he had 900 iron chariots, and he had oppressed Israel ruthlessly for 20 years. Devorah, wife of Lapidot, was a prophet. She led Israel at that time. She used to sit under the palm of Devorah between Ramah and Bethel in the hill country of Ephraim, and the Israelites would come to her for decisions. So she summoned Barak, son of Abinoam of Kadesh in Naphtali, and said to him, Yahweh, the God of Israel, has commanded, go, march up to Mount Tabor, and take with you 10,000 men of Naphtali and Zebulun. And I will draw Sisera, Yavin's army commander, with his chariots and his troops, toward you up to the Wadi Kishon, and I will deliver him into your hands. So I'm going to skip ahead here to Judges 5, which is the Song of Devorah, one of the oldest texts in the Hebrew Bible. On the day that Devorah and Barak, son of Abinoam, on that day, the day of victory, Devorah and Barak, son of Abinoam, sang, when the locks go untrimmed in Israel, when people dedicate themselves, bless Yahweh. Here O kings, give ear, O potentates. I will sing to Yahweh. Will him the eternal, that is Yahweh, the God of Israel. O God, when you came forth from Seir, advanced from the country of Edom, the earth trembled, the heavens dripped, the clouds dripped water. The mountains quaked because of Yahweh. Yon Sinai because of Yahweh, the God of Israel. In the days of Shamgar, son of Anat, in the days of Jael, caravans ceased, and wayfarers went by roundabout paths. Deliverance ceased in Israel, till you arose, O Deborah, arose, O mother, in Israel. When they chose new gods, was there a fighter then in the gates? No shield or spear was seen among 40,000 in Israel. My heart is with Israel's leaders, with the dedicated of his people. Bless Yahweh. You riders on tawny jennies, you who sit on saddle rugs, and you wayfarers, declare it. Louder than the sound of archers, there among the watering places, let them chant Yahweh's gracious acts, the gracious deliverance of Israel. Then did Yahweh's people march down to the gates. Awake, awake, O Devorah. Awake, awake, strike up the chant. Arise, O Barak. Take your captives, O son of Abinoam. Then was the remnant made victor over the mighty. Yahweh's people won my victory over the warriors. It goes through this list that I'm not going to go through of all the people from all the tribes. There's actually 10 tribes, not 12.
Mentioned.
Who mentioned?
Tanakh. By Megiddo's waters.
There we go. Yes, there we go. But here, picking up in, this is verse 19. Then the kings came. They fought. The kings of Canaan fought at Taanach by Megiddo's waters. They got no spoil of silver. The stars fought from heaven. From their courses, they fought against Sisera. The torrent Kishon swept them away. The raging torrent, the torrent Kishon, march on, my soul, with courage. Then the horses' hoofs pounded as headlong galloped the steeds. Curse Meroz, said the angel of Yahweh, bitterly curse its inhabitants, because they came not to Yahweh's aid among the warriors. Most blessed of women be Yael, wife of Heber the Kenite. Most blessed of women in tents. He asked for water, she offered milk. In a princely bowl she brought him curds. Her hand reached for the tent pin, her right hand for the workman's hammer. She struck Sisera, crushed his head, smashed and pierced his temple. At her feet he sank, lay outstretched at her feet he sank, lay still. Where he sank, there he lay, destroyed. Through the window peered Sisera's mother. Behind the lattice she whined. Why is his chariot so long in coming? Why so late the clatter of his wheels? The wisest of her ladies give answer. She too replied to herself. They must be dividing the spoil they found. A woman or two for each man. Spoil of dyed cloths for Sisera. Spoil of embroidered cloths. A couple of embroidered cloths round every neck as spoil. So may all your enemies perish, O Yahweh. But may your friends be as the sun rising in might. And the land was tranquil for 40 years. So it's
also, can you go back up to the very start of this
verse 1
chapter? Because there's something I know that's not on topic, but go back a little more where it identifies Dvorah.
Chapter
when we first
4.
Meet her.
Yeah. Okay.
Go a little further. There's something.
Here we go.
Yeah, right there. Dvorah Isha. Can you scroll up just like a line?
There we go. Dvorah Isha.
Via Eshet.
She is the
Lapidot.
She's the lady prophet, the woman of Lapidot.
Lapidot. We've had conversations about her tending. There's a lot of Jewish commentary and glosses that discuss Dvorah as being a woman who Yeah, as a prophetess, but also tends the wicks of the menorah.
Right.
Or the lamp.
Yes.
Yeah, and I find that to be a much cooler interpretation, because if this is as old as it is, this is probably the time when women had a more active role in ritual life before the whole like post-exile purge of Asherah and all that stuff. So they call her like a mother, they refer to her as a prophet, they seek her out for decisions. Like, she's doing stuff that women really didn't do in later periods. So I think this is a really cool, little obscure passage, but there's a lot of stuff to sink your teeth into that we obviously can't go into that today. But
right. Also, and because all of this stuff, as you're pointing out, because it's super fucking old. Like, this is one of the oldest texts in the Hebrew Bible. So there's a lot of stuff in here that does not align with the way later writers want to present the history, the situation, the culture, the social structures of everything. And so it's all very interesting. A fiery woman. Yeah, absolutely. Vish, did you grab the 1 Samuel 12 passage?
I did, and I also wanted to. Bitcourse was saying, did they name the palm after her? Devorah is sitting under her own palm tree. If you read the Book of Jubilees, it'll tell you why that palm tree is named the Palm of Devorah.
Nice. That's
and
awesome.
It's not this Devorah, it's a different one. So. Okay.
Right.
There was also a quick super chat from Dave.
Hey.
For 10 beaver bucks.
See you, Dave.
There's a kitty in my lap, but if I try to
tonight
attempt to her, she will scream angrily, so here's her tail.
There's her tail.
Yeah, she does not like being picked up at all.
Dave says, I hear tonight there will be an in-depth academic discussion about super weapons the Israelites created using forgotten technologies. Probably worth checking out. I imagine that is
T2T night.
What is taking place on Toast to Toast tonight at do you guys start at 7 Pacific, Dave?
7 Pacific, 10 Eastern, I think.
Pacific, 10 Eastern, that's right. So everyone check it out. I'd put a redirect in, but we're gonna be done like hours before. Now that's academia.
That's right.
Super fucking weapons.
Yeah, that's right.
Awesome. Awesome. Do you want to put 1 Samuel 12 starting in verse 9 up, because this is there is one more mention of Chatzor here in 1 Samuel, and this is sort of the recounting of the conflicts in Israel. They forgot Yahweh their God, so they were delivered into the hands of Sisera. Actually, back it up a little bit.
I was gonna say we need to get back a little bit.
Because go right up to here, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Come stand before Yahweh while I cite. Sorry. Okay. Come stand before Yahweh while I cite against you all the kindness that Yahweh has done to you and your ancestors. When Jacob came to Egypt, your ancestors cried out to Yahweh, and Yahweh sent Moses and Aaron, who brought your ancestors out of Egypt and settled them in this place. But they forgot the eternal their God, Yahweh their God. So they delivered into the hands of Sisera, the military commander of Chatzor, into the hands of the Philistines, and into the hands of the king of Moab. And these made war upon them. They cried to Yahweh, we are guilty, for we have forsaken Yahweh and worshipped the Baalim and Ashtaroth. Oh, deliver us from our enemies, and we will serve you. And God sent Jerubbaal and Bedan and Jephthah and Samuel, and delivered you from the enemies around you, and you dwelt in security. Now, it's unfortunate that Devorah got written out.
Completely written out. That's BS.
Of this story. But I wanted to point to this right? Because this destruction of the city of Hatzor was a big deal. Such a big deal that it was like there was an exodus and there was a conquest, and there was this one time when, you know, our people waged war against the city of Hatzor and Sisera, the commander of King Yabin's army. And that brings us up to today. So what is
Mr. Rip is asking why I'm using a circumlocution or why they're used at all. It's, let me see if I can get my right here. That's the divine name. And these little vowel pointings are to clue the reader in to say the word do, nai. That's the vowels that are going to prompt you to do that. So it's one of those things, if you're just not a fan of pronouncing the divine name, or if you feel that you should respect the divine name by not using it casually, that's typically what you do. Substitute Adonai or Hashem. That's another one. So, yeah.
What was the Old Testament stream about? My mom, when we were talking on Sunday. Mostly hockey riots and pegging.
Yep. That's right.
Yeah, I'm now tempted to rename the stream after we're done going back and calling it hockey riots and pegging.
Hockey riots and
Thank
pegging.
you very much for that. Thank you very much.
Man, this is one of my favorite verses. Verse 12, it says, when you saw Nahash, king of the Ammonites, was advancing against you, you said to me, no, we have to have a king reigning over us, though Adonai, your God, is your king.
Nice.
And this is one of those things that like clues you into the, like, I guess, emotional state of God in this passage. Is like the people are going, no, we want a human king. We want a human. And God's like, well, but I was your king. And they go, well, we want a human. And he's like, okay, fine. I'll make a deal with you. They obey me. If they stay right, I'll give you a king like everybody else. But if you screw up and you just kind of like tell my commandments to piss off, then I'll smite you like I did to others. So, yeah.
Nice.
Probably not emotionally healthy, but, you know.
Not emotionally healthy, no. But let's get back to the video, because he's got he's going to say some things about Shiloh. I don't have a ton to say about that, but we'll look at that quickly, and then we'll get on to what I promised you guys, the best evidence for the conquest of Canaan. It's coming.
Okay.
The Canaanites around this time, and then someone stopped. They started to fizzle out around 1400, and then all of a sudden around 1200s, the Israelites started to use it.
They started to fizzle out. Why do you think that is, Kip? Anything interesting happening around?
Why they started to fizzle out around the 1200s? I mean, a whole bunch of shit happened. You know, there was like famines and earthquakes and empires, you know, collapsing, and the world kind of went to shit over the course of 100 or 150 years. Entire empires just disappeared. The Mitanni Empire disappeared. The Hittite Empire disappeared at this time period because there were dramatic forces at work changing the world from all sorts of things. Climate change was contributing to all this stuff. So that's
one. And let's see, the current, I think, consensus is that it's a combination of things. That there was climate change, there was war, there was famine, economic issues, revolts, and everything kind of just happened all at once.
Just happened at once. I'm going to read a passage today from a very, very good book that I recommend often by Eric Klein's called
Hey, Eric Klein.
Eric Klein called 1177 BC.
Yeah.
The year civilization collapsed is the subtitle of it, and it's all about what happened at the end of the Bronze Age. And he spends a lot of time at the end going, well, I mean, we really don't know. But then he says there's all these theories about what it was. What was it that fundamentally changed the world at the end of the Bronze Age and the beginning of the Iron Age? And, ultimately lands on all of these things happened, right?
I got a comment on this. I know that you're trying to be cute, but anthropogenic climate change is a different phenomenon than like a volcano exploding, like the one in Indonesia. Anyway, blowing itself up and vaporizing like an entire island chain and giving us like 3 years of freaking winter. Like that's different. You can't control volcanoes. But anthropogenic climate change is directly like human and fossil fuel and coal and stuff. That's something, and we've been documenting that. But it's like, hey, the climate, Pinatubo, that's not the one I was thinking about. It may have been started with a T. I'm just, my brain's blanking. But yeah, there's a lot of reasons that the climate can change. It happens quite a lot. And the most recent cause is us. But the nature is also still doing things. Volcanoes continue to erupt, earthquakes continue to happen, and things continue to shift around. So these are very complex and dynamic systems at play.
Yes. Lots of them. So, all right. Continue.
Okay.
That's not coming from me. That's coming from archaeologists like Israel Finkelstein, who doesn't believe in an exodus. But he says, these are the most important building remains of Iron One Shiloh, indicating developed construction techniques and agricultural concepts already at this early stage of Israelite settlement. So somebody resettled and started using Shiloh around the same time as the conquest happens. Now we know the Bible mentions dozens of sites during the book of Joshua, right? So when Kenneth Kitchen went through all these sites, he's finding them in the archaeological record. So these sites are being used, settled. So for the most part, Joshua is mentioning numerous sites that seem to align as being occupied during the time of the conquest. Now, I've not even gotten to the best part. I'm going to give you the best piece of evidence for the conquest here.
Okay. Pause it there for a sec.
If there was a new group of people.
Actually, you know what? We're not gonna bother with the Shiloh thing. That's fine. So just let it continue. He's going to give us now the best evidence for the conquest of Canaan. You guys ready for it?
No.
All right.
People moving into Israel, we should expect the population to increase, right? Well, scholars are pretty much unanimous on this. During this time, there was a population explosion in Canaan. Dozens of new sites came out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere.
Almost overnight. De novo new sites. All of a sudden, there's all these new people. We don't know where they came from.
Sorry. I can't. It's like, where do these people come from? I don't know. They just spring up out of nowhere. My guy.
Just
really?
Popped out of the ground like daisies.
Maybe this is when God started like creating a new wave of people from the ground. They just like
that's it.
Sprung up. Yeah.
That's right.
Like, come on. Out of nowhere. People move around. This is a thing that's happened since we've developed as a species.
Beginning of yes.
People move around. They don't stay in one place. Cultures contact each other. They don't just come out of nowhere. Made of
mud like orcs. Oh yes.
You and I are both code for it. Golem Nation.
Golem Nation.
Yes.
So Mazur says intense archaeological surveys or archaeological surface surveys revealed an entirely new settlement pattern in Iron Age 1. Hundreds of new small sites were inhabited in the mountainous areas of the upper and lower Galilee, in the hills of Samaria and Ephraim, in Benjamin, in the northern Negev, and in parts of central and northern Transjordan. Much of this activity can be related to Israelite tribes. Though the ethnic attribution in some of these regions is still questionable.
You said Transjordan, that's woke.
Ooh, very woke.
Yeah.
We just read this passage.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And did he quote it out of context? Let's find out.
I mean, he's mostly getting it right. Let me go back here and just have a look. Because he's talking about huts or yeah.
I want to see what he says after this.
Sure. Oh, I mean, I've got
to
a
give you
whole
kind of like
bunch
an understanding.
I got a whole bunch of
So
people
take
who
for
have
example
things to say
Ephraim
after this.
Okay, it went from very few sites to 131 occupied sites. In Manasseh, 200 new occupied sites. Here's the chart. So late Bronze Age, you can see in Judah 0, Benjamin 0, Iron 1, 18, 52. Ephraim goes from 4 to 102. Manasseh 32 to 147, 19 to 77, 20 to 46, 32, up and up and up. Numbers don't lie. You can dispute about, oh, this site, that site. Numbers tell a really interesting story. You go from 88 sites to 678, almost as if within a generation. That kind of stuff doesn't happen unless a new people have moved in from another region.
Really?
So just in terms of timeline, we see that population was actually depleting.
The only reason is people coming in from another region.
That's it. That's the only reason. Do you remember? We talked quite a bit about Hatzor. It was like a largest city in Canaan, right? Tons of people lived there, and it was abandoned. Yeah. Where did they go? All those people who lived in Hatzor. I mean, we know based on the archaeology that you know that they weren't all slaughtered, right?
Some of them just left. They were like, nah.
They had to go somewhere. Numbers don't lie, but often lack context. Yes, thank you.
That's why statistics, you have to compare things that are able to be compared. So.
And Tree Climb Tad says, numbers don't lie. People lie with numbers. Yeah. It's
because he's trying to make the case that like, oh, these numbers exploded because of the conquest. The Israelites moved in, and it's like, no,
just moved in.
Like,
that's right.
Okay.
So okay.
And then all of a sudden, around the same time that we aligned the conquest, population explosion. Very, very odd. Also, what's very interesting about these new Canaanite sites.
130 sites times 100 people per site is 3 million people. I'm better at math than Kev. Numbers are not a man that they should lie. Good.
You guys are awesome.
That's amazing.
These new Israelite sites in Canaan, they didn't eat pig. No pig bones.
That's not correct. We find pig bone sites like all over the place. My guy. He needs to watch Religion for Breakfast's video on the pork taboo and exactly how many pig bones are found in this area.
Yeah.
We
like, talked about this last time too.
Buying. Yeah.
Once again, there are varieties of reasons why you would find places where they're not consuming a lot of pork. I suggested that with the increase of highland settlements and villages, and movement away from the cities, that part of this was also it was a form of social change related to the fact that that pigs are, easy to raise in the city. So when you leave the city, you stop raising pigs so much. You look towards other forms of livestock and agriculture that are more suitable for living out on the range, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Brooke Halpern says prior to and during the Seed People's settlement, Canaanite sites reveal low levels, but real levels of pig consumption. The early Philistine layers conversely indicate a very high level of pig consumption, but the Israelite sites of the highlands disclose an amount complete absence of pig, showing in addition a general preference for sheep over goat. So these brand new sites that just came out of nowhere, they didn't eat pig. What do we remember about Avaris back in Egypt? They also didn't eat pig. So we have a correlation here.
Oh my God.
No pig in Avaris, no pig at these new Israelite sites in Canaan.
It's got to be the same people.
The reason we don't find them in earlier sites is because the pork taboo, it was a late development, but also like the demographics of this area changed. Why is this such a...
It's not hard. Goats are easy to raise in the country. Pigs are easy to raise in the city. Like, yeah. Goats and sheep give you meat, milk, and sometimes wool. Pigs give you only meat. Like,
and
there are
really good garbage disposals.
Yes. Does correlation equal causation? I'm not sure. But
I mean, to Mike it does. But yeah, I really, really, really strongly recommend that people go to Religion for Breakfast, run by Dr. Is it Andrew Mark Henry? I always get those backwards for some reason. But yeah, he did a whole video on the pork taboo, and he goes into the archaeology and how many pig bones were found, where and when. So yeah, this is not a great line of reasoning from him.
Very, very odd coincidence. And again, we have a
so
in our
odd
Bible that tells us why we would find this correlation. This stuff is predicted by the Bible. This is what we should find, and it's exactly what we find. So just to recap, again, when we look at the timeline, Middle Kingdom, New King over Egypt. Exodus here, conquest here, and what does the Egyptians even say? Yeah, Israel's in Canaan. That's where they are. Around the time they should be there. So let's look at the data. Let's just do a quick summary here. This is the evidence we went through. So we saw a Semitic population at Avaris, which indicates shepherds. The Semitic population was enslaved and not treated well. Egyptian evidence shows foreign slaves involved in brickmaking. No pig bones found at Avaris. Avaris was abandoned during the Ramesside period. Again, roughly about here. This is when Avaris is about abandoned. The Ark of the Covenant fits with late Bronze Age Egyptian culture. There was a population explosion roughly once generation later in Canaan. And then Merneptah Stele confirmed Israel was in Canaan at this point. The new settlements lacked pig bones, aligning with what we saw about those people who abandoned Avaris. Shiloh was resettled with distinct Israelite features. There was a small cultic site found on Mount Ebal. Roughly 30 sites from the book of Joshua have been found. Hazor indicates a fiery destruction, and the idols of Hazor were mutilated in an Israelite fashion. And Jericho went from a fortified city to a small town.
They were mutilated in an Israelite fashion? How did their mutilations of like statues differ from other people? What are you talking? He's just throwing this in here out of nowhere.
Maybe they circumcised them.
Do statues have foreskins? Like what?
I don't know.
I just keep laughing where he's like, "Oh, Israel was in Canaan at this point." I'm like, "Yeah, because they were Canaanites.
They're Canaanites, my guy."
It's like saying that Native Americans were found in North America. Really?
Yep.
It's the fact that you don't find pig bones in times where there weren't lots of large cities is not a surprise. Just saying.
No.
And he's focusing on Avaris. Did he provide evidence that specifically Israelite, not just like Semitic language speaking people, were in Egypt being oppressed? Because he's trying to give you all the circumstantial evidence, and that doesn't lead to the conclusion that therefore the Exodus.
Yeah. It's I mean the entire presentation is a lot of waving your hands vigorously and painting in extremely broad strokes and hoping that all of it works out for you in the end. There's just no precision or rigor here. Let him finish, and then I want to talk about this population explosion.
Also, Jericho going from the fortified city to a small town. Dude, we've talked about this to death.
Yeah.
I just wish they would never bring up Jericho again, because it is not doing what you think.
It really isn't. I mean, it's just not. That's just not what the Bible says happened.
The opposite happened. It was already wasted when they got there.
Yes.
Just ugh.
Here's a simple question. If you don't think an Exodus happened, how do you explain all this?
Civilization.
We've spent several hours now reading what the scholars have to say about this, providing, ample explanations for what actually happened that don't depend on any Exodus, and importantly, in most cases, actually work against any sort of theory of a large Exodus or a conquest. They came at Canaan so hard, the destruction back in time.
I mean, if you listen to Spirit Science, Jews can time travel, so sure, why not?
Oh, it's true. Yes, that's true.
Mhm.
Yeah. Awesome.
Like, yeah, we spent the last 2 sessions of this video talking about why these disparate pieces of evidence don't actually demonstrate that the Exodus, as described in the text, happened.
Yeah.
So he's just going to ignore that and go, nuh-uh.
Yeah.
Again, this is as shitty as saying, look, we found these ancient stories about like superheroes that have powers and they lived in a place called New York City. And guys, we found so much of New York City. We've been excavating it for years. We found evidence of huge scale destruction and like rebuilding. We found all these different inhabitant layers. We found like subways. We found all these different things. Spider-Man's real. Like, we found all the places that he lived. We found these neighborhoods. We found the pizza store
shawarma
where he ate.
hut.
Yeah, there's all these things we found. So obviously, Spider-Man was real. In fact, we have a record of several different people who were alleged to be Spider-Man. At least 3. So yeah, he cites all these scholars and just ignores their conclusions. Yeah. Yeah, this is another thing. Thank you. Abram was from Ur and Haran, so what nationality was he? He literally was not from Canaan. That's the whole point of the story. He crossed over a river to get into Canaan. That's why they're called Ephraim.
Yes.
Goodness. So frustrating. But I could just ignore it and go, nuh-uh. So take that, scholars.
So, okay, you could say maybe Avaris was abandoned, but those Semites were just dispersed throughout Egypt. And yeah, there was a population explosion in Canaan who also lacked pig bones, but those people were just, they were living in the lowlands of Israel and they moved into the highlands. Even though we've no.
Hey, Kip, would you be shocked, stunned even, to learn that there are Jews today that eat pork?
Be a little surprised, but know.
But the text says not to. They couldn't possibly. Right. That's how dumb this is.
Yeah, it is.
We found ancient imagery of 3 Spider-Mans pointing at each other. This is clearly a Trinitarian.
Nice.
Yes. Good.
But it's a bad. And maybe, Hazor was destroyed. It was destroyed by Egyptians or maybe Canaanites who were sick and tired of being treated harshly by their rulers. You can explain all this stuff away. Or you can account for all the.
They're not explaining it away. They are explaining it.
Yes. They're looking at the data and they're saying, the best explanation for all of this is not the Bible.
He's the one explaining their work away. They're
Yes.
just explaining it. Oh, yeah,
he
he didn't know about female
oh,
rabbis.
man.
So yeah,
Well,
okay.
You know,
That's fair.
now that you mention it,
Are there
Yeah.
are there female rabbis?
okay, press play. We gotta
Data with one
finish this
explanation.
part.
There was a biblical exodus. Which do you think is a simpler explanation?
That there was.
Oh,
This is why when I
This
keep
is
asking atheists
definitely-
to debate me on
this is definitely a simpler explanation. And that's why it does not work. I keep telling you, simple explanations are not the best ones when it comes to history. Usually, it's these combination of complex factors that that contribute to the events of what actually happened. That's why this just will never work. He doesn't show any of it. No, it is a very obviously a gender-driven presentation. But of course, he's standing up and giving it in a church. So,
well, of course,
that is to be expected. So,
explanation. This is why when I keep asking atheists to debate me on the Exodus, they won't do it. Because they know I can make a philosophical case that all this data can be explained in a simple
I don't give a fuck about your philosophical case. I want an archaeological case.
Yeah.
And you don't have one.
yeah.
And the more we excavate, the less chance there is of an exodus. Sorry. We don't do history with philosophy, my dude. We do it with archaeology. So, nice try. God,
parsimonious way by just pointing to an Exodus.
it's not parsimonious.
So there's even more data I don't have time to cover. If you want more, I have 3 videos on my YouTube channel.
He's got
I do the
videos.
Exodus.
But
the
now
one.
I want to talk about this. I'm gonna bring this up. Sorry. I want to talk about his. You heard that, right? You remember the best evidence, the very best evidence for the Exodus and the conquest of Canaan is this explosion of population and all these new sites all throughout the region that popped up out of nowhere, right? So I've got a lot of things to read about this. I'm actually very shamelessly beginning with I think that's chapter 10
right?
of my book. Yeah. Where I talk about this. A lot of people talk about this. There is an interesting and important change in the archaeological record of Sarah Palestine, the region of ancient Canaan, when it comes to the beginning of the first millennium BCE, where the Bronze Age transitions into the Iron Age. In a survey of 9 regions, there is a total of 88 Bronze Age settlements, which occupy a built-up area of around 200 hectares. Estimates based on these numbers suggest that they represent a population of roughly 50,000 people. Then, in the same regions, there is an explosion of early Iron Age settlements, numbering 678, comprising around 600 hectares, for positing an estimated population of 150,000 people. But what is especially noteworthy about this substantial increase is in their geographic distribution and demographic shift. 633 and 93% of the Iron Age 1 sites are new foundations, usually small, unwalled villages. Most of these new settlements are located in the highlands or plateaus on both sides of the Jordan. Settlement is especially dense in the territories of Manasseh and Ephraim in the west and in Gilead and Moab in the east. Both frontiers have been sparsely settled in the late Bronze Age. This extraordinary increase in occupation during the Iron Age 1 cannot be explained only by natural population growth of the few late Bronze Age city-states in the region. There must have been a major influx of people into the highlands in the 12th and 11th centuries BCE. So this quote here, this citation, I'm fairly sure. Let me double check. I'm quite sure this is Stagger. Yes. This is this is Lawrence E. Stagger's excellent essay. Actually, let me grab it. Over here. It's in the Oxford History of the Biblical World, which is this is an older book by now, but it's a very good book. Edited by Michael Coogan, who I particularly like. When was this published? Let's see. It was oh, actually the date's right here, isn't it? 1999. I mean, it's quite old by now. I also in my footnote here, I've also cited the same citation that Michael gave from Amahai Mazar, right? Intensive archaeological surveys reveal an entirely new settlement pattern. So that's the that's Stagger's work, but there's more to say here, right? There's a lot more to say here, and there are plenty of scholars who have a lot to say. We honestly do not know much from the archaeological record about the beginnings of Israel. But one thing that most scholars agree about is that a main feature of characterization for this group of people was their movement away from cities and into villages. We will discuss the potential reasons for this movement in a later chapter, but for now, it is sufficient for understanding the worldview and culture of these people in these admittedly oversimplified terms. The early Israelites were country folk, not city folk. Daily life for most people, out of whom Israel emerged, was lived in the highland villages, away from, perhaps in resistance to, the surrounding Canaanite cities. Another feature which may bolster this idea is in what is often considered to be a cultural distinction of Israelite society, the dramatic underrepresentation of pig bones when compared to other Canaanite settlements. This suggests that Israelites, unlike their Canaanite neighbors, did not keep, butcher, and eat pork. Of course, this aligns with the mandate in Leviticus against eating pork, among other unclean animals. And I cite the text there. Mm-hmm. It is often assumed that this prohibition against eating pork is of ritual significance because it also aligns with later Jewish purity laws. Israelites abstained from eating pork because pork was ritually unclean. There will be much more to say about this towards the end of the book in chapter 15. But for now, this aversion to pork in the early Israelite settlement seems as though it was actually more closely tied to their distinction from city folk. It's better. There's better animals to raise in the highlands than pigs. Mm-hmm. One of the key reasons why pigs were prominent in many ancient diets is precisely because this is livestock that can be effectively bred and kept in smaller, more condensed spaces, such as inside Canaanite city walls. Could it be that the ritual abstinence from eating pork came out of this more practical division? Was it just another way for the country folk and the village people to self-identify and separate themselves from the city folk? That is
another thing that you really have to ask when you see prohibitions like this on clothing, diet, practice. Who are you not trying to be like? That's what these boundaries are doing. So when you're like, oh, don't eat pork. Okay, great. Who are you not trying to be like by avoiding this animal? When you say dress this way, who are you not trying to look like? These boundaries are to distinguish you from a different group. So who is that group?
Yes.
Why are they doing this? You know, these are, this is crazy.
These early Iron Age villages consist of groupings of houses together and likely comprised of family units. We identify this way of life in the hill country as kinship-based societies, Houses excavated in the hill country and in non-urban areas tend to be very close to one another in size. This also indicates that the social structure within these groups was non-hierarchical, without obvious superiors and subordinates. It was significantly egalitarian in many respects. The sheer number and the small size of many settlements indicates that inhabitants were almost certainly all related. Family is the base unit of the society, and we see idealized descriptions of this structure was conceived on a broad scale in places like Joshua chapter 7. Not going to go through and read that, but I wanted to bring up another text. This is the Song of Devorah that we read earlier. As briefly mentioned in chapter 2, there is an interesting correspondence of settlement patterns in the Levant during the Bronze Age collapse. The beginnings of what we come to know as Israel occurs in a growing migration away from the Canaanite cities and into the Judean highlands. Texts like Judges 5 seem to reflect a violent uprising. Could this have played a role in the movement to get out of the cities that appeared behind many of these ancient texts? There are problems with both this peasant revolt model and Gottwald's gradual social reform model, which we won't take the time to get into. Although, while flawed, these big ideas likely depict a more or less accurate social and historical picture of the early Israelites. As Mendenhall and Gottwald have argued, the Israelites were, if not Canaanites, then at least part of the local population. The consensus is now that the Israel of history began as a society of highland farmers who, for fairly typical reasons and according to fairly typical processes, pulling of economic resources, exchanging goods, intermarrying, came to share a sense of common ethnicity. As these things go, there is unsurprisingly more nuance to these questions, and there are traditions within the Hebrew Bible that hint at a more complex picture of Israel's origins. On the one hand, we have very early echoes of the highland migrations, possibly through conflict with the city rulers. However, we must be careful to avoid overreading these patterns. No complete break connected to the newly developed village culture can be interpreted ethnically in the sense of an opposition between Canaan and Israel. There was no change of language or dialect, at least as far as discernible. Utilitarian pottery and architecture were subject to functional changes, but were still in continuity with the late Bronze Age. Funeral rites hardly changed. The religion of the early Israelites was not fundamentally different from Canaanite religion. However, its system of symbols was far more oriented toward the immediate needs of the farmers of the hill country. The transition between late Bronze Age urban society and early Iron Age village society was economically, culturally, and socially much more fluid than is often assumed. There are also texts which seem to point to multiple sources of the emergence of various peoples as a distinct people group. So that's just basically my summary of what a lot of the archaeologists are saying about this situation, in that it's complicated. There's all sorts of, I've got a few more things. Let me grab what I have next.
History
here.
is
So that was
messy.
It's messy. Let's go now to Anne Killebrew and her summary of the situation here on page 155. The archaeological, I have this highlighted here at the bottom. The archaeological evidence, though fragmentary, contributes to our understanding of the longer-term history of processual change over time, as well as the shorter-term historically specific context of the 13th and 11th centuries BCE. Of special relevance to this discussion are the excavations and surveys conducted during the past 30 years in the Central Hill Country of Israel and the Transjordan Highlands. surveys of preliminary attempts to analyze the results within the framework of the broader field of landscape archaeology have transformed our understanding of the textual evidence related to Israel's emergence. This evidence shows a notable shift in settlement patterns throughout much of Canaan that occurred during the course of the late 13th through 11th centuries. These far-reaching structural changes corresponded to the region-wide fragmentation and dislocation of peoples that characterized the collapse of the late Bronze Age world of empires and international connections in the Eastern Mediterranean. Following centuries of declining sedentary populations, increasing social and economic population, and deteriorating conditions in late Bronze Age city-states and in the countryside, dozens of small hamlets and villages appeared over the course of 2 centuries. That's the other thing. Michael talks about this explosion of highland settlements out of nowhere, as if it all happened like on the same day or even the same year or the same decade. And that is not what archaeologists are talking about.
His chart showed a line, and over the span of like 100 years, it stays flat and then just zoops up. And I'm like, that's not how this worked. It would have been an incline. It wouldn't have just been like an almost vertical freaking increase.
It's something that changes over a longer period of time. One of the reasons why, that looks so as sharp as it does is because he's got the time scale. It's like he's looking at a period on that chart of like 1500 years, right?
Yeah.
So of course that 150-year period is going to look like this. But it's got to be re-emphasized over and over again. This transition takes place over a couple centuries, not all at once. It's something that took time. Where was I? 2 centuries. Yeah. The archaeological record seldom documents such large-scale change and regional diversity as that demonstrated during the transition from the late Bronze Age to Iron Ages. The resulting settlement and material cultural patterns created new cultural and social boundaries that defined Iron Age Canaan. Is that page 156? Page 157 here. Many of the characteristic features of the archaeology of the Central Hill Country have been previously discussed in depth in numerous publications during the past 3 decades. These newly established 12th to 11th century villages are characterized by modest numbers of domestic structures, usually a version of the 3 or 4 room pillared house, few if any public structures or fortifications. Remember, they destroyed all those in Hatzor, right? A proliferation of silos, the appearance of cisterns and agricultural terraces, absence of pig bones, paucity of burials, and most notably, a very limited repertoire of utilitarian ceramic containers that contain the tradition of late Bronze Age pottery shapes. The major results of the surveys and excavations in both Cisjordan and Transjordan are presented below, followed by a summary of the main features of highland material culture, with a focus on the pottery types associated with the heartland of the Central Hill Country, and a case study of the Colorim Pithos as an indicator of social boundaries. So what she's basically saying here, what she's getting at, and I've got, I think I've got her conclusion here. Let me go to my bookmarks here. So yeah, that's the one there. So what she's basically saying there is again, the explosion of these highland settlements, which resulted in a population increase, occurred as a result of a whole bunch of factors. various factors. But lots of this, that what we're observing, is social change, right? A movement away from these urban centers into the highlands. Of course, that's not where everybody came from. But this was sort of where the population centers were moving to. Changes that occurred during the early Iron One period are most clearly delineated in the Central Highland regions on both sides of the Jordan River, first appearing in the northern regions and gradually spreading to the southern and marginal regions. Such dramatic changes in settlement patterns are usually attributed to the forced settlement of nomadic populations, due either to climatic changes, socioeconomic and or political factors, population increases, or a combination of some or all of the above. It's not just one thing. It's not simple, remember? Although one cannot totally discount any of these factors, the impact of late Bronze Age Egyptian imperial rule on traditional tribal and kinship relationships has been underestimated. The increasing settlement population in the Central Hill Country during the Iron One, which reached its peak only during the 11th century BCE, corresponded to Egyptian retreat from the Jordan Valley administrative and military strongholds, such as Beth Sha'an and Sa'idia, sometime during the second half of the 12th century BCE. The weakening of Egyptian influence and the coinciding deterioration of late Bronze Age urban centers gradually removed restrictions and control over indigenous populations and permitted the increase of population movements and contacts between Cisjordan and Transjordan. Egyptian imperialistic activities in the Jordan Valley and efforts to impose order on these diverse and fractious Canaanite populations should be seen as a short-term interruption of long-term, millennia-long, traditional tribal or clan relations and contacts between highland regions of both sides of the Jordan River. So not only is it complicated, something that's completely overlooked here is the results of the diminishment of the Egyptian hegemony in the period at this time. You'll forget, we talked about that in the very first video that we made, the video response that Vish and I did to this lecture of Michael's. You'll remember that we talked about how Egypt effectively lost control of Canaan at the end of at the end of the Bronze Age, and they controlled the area, which is part of why it made absolutely no sense for the Israelites to flee Egypt into, you know, the region dominated by the garrisons of the Egyptians. Like, it's just that's not what happened, because Egypt was in firm control of the area at the time of the 13th century BCE, but that diminished to the point that by the 11th century, when we see these highland settlements start to peak in size and number, Egypt's no longer a factor, or at least not a significant factor in the area. It's something that's overlooked. So I have a couple more here. Christian Frevel, in his History of Ancient Israel, on page 94, says this: at first glance, the settlement patterns between late Bronze Age to the Iron Age give the impression that a complete change occurred. The published survey data report that the number of settlements in the highlands increased approximately 500% between the late Bronze Age, from 61, and the Iron Age, to 334. Furthermore, the changed settlement pattern was not only accompanied by a demographic rise of settled people, but also included technological and architectural changes. While all of this points towards a radical change, things are not straightforward. There was continuity, change, and regional diversity. The northern cluster of the new settlements evinces much more continuity with the city culture than the cluster of new farmsteads in the Sumerian hill country, which were almost entirely new. The Iron Age 1 was a transitional period between the urban cultures in the Bronze Age and those in the Iron Age 2. The process was often conceptualized as a sequence of clear-cut phases of decline and emergence. However, recent data have convincingly shown that the phases overlap somewhat. The late Bronze Age city-states continued for a while during the process of decline and coexisted with the developing new settlement patterns. Or, to phrase it in the other way around, the new settlement process had already begun in the 12th century BCE when the city culture started to decline. When the peak of settlement waves was reached in the 11th century, the decline still continued and the waves of settlement extended into the 10th century BCE. Despite the changed settlement pattern, the early Iron Age village culture cannot be described in complete discontinuity with the late Bronze Age urban culture. It is true that luxury goods such as ivory, jewelry, and valuable ceramics, as well as the late Bronze Age cylinder seals, were no longer produced. For example, the material culture is characterized by significantly lower quality. However, no complete break connected with the newly developed village culture can be interpreted ethnically in the sense of an opposition between Canaan and Israel. There was no change of language or dialect, at least as far as discernible. Utilitarian pottery and architecture were subject to functional changes, but were still in continuity with the late Bronze Age. Funeral rites hardly changed. The religion of the early Israelites was not fundamentally different from Canaanite religion. However, its system of symbols was far more oriented towards the immediate needs of farmers of the hill country. The transition between the late Bronze Age early urban society and Iron Age Israel village society was economically, culturally, and socially much more fluid than often assumed. This also brings the biblical portrayal of a clear contrast between late Bronze Age Canaan with early Iron Age Israel into question. While the late Bronze Age urban culture was characterized by a division of labor and achieving economic growth, trade, and crafts, village culture functioned as a subsistence economy, characterized by the bartering of natural products. This was due to the relatively low level of social stratification in village culture. That is, there were only minor differences in status and hardly any elite or economically distinct classes within society. Scholarship, therefore, often refers to the early Iron One social structure as an egalitarian tribal society. It should not be overlooked, however, that craftsmen were also needed in the early Iron Age contexts, and perhaps apart from long-distance trade, trade was also conducted. Land ownership in the early Iron Age, tribal society was also dependent on social networks, usually reflecting kinship, which cultivated the idea of a common heritage, a nachla, the inheritance. The undoubted change in social structure, economy, political organization, demographics, and way of life were probably due far more to the upheaval of the Canaanite city-state society than to an Israel that contrasted with Canaan. Looking at all the available information, one cannot help feeling that the contrast between the late Bronze Age and early Iron Age has been strongly overemphasized in research to preserve Israel's distinct otherness. However, this corresponds far more to the traditional models of an allogenic origin of Israel than to the currently more plausible models of indigenous origin. De facto, the traditions were far more fluid. I think I've got one more here from Fravel. Bookmarks. Over here. This is his summary. Titled, Israel emerged in and from Canaan. The terms Israel and Canaan are used in the following only as placeholders due to a lack of more accurate designations. Israel's ethnogenesis did not conclude with the emergence of the new village culture. This culture can neither be equated with Israel nor dramatically opposed to Canaan. Regional differentiation shows that a theory aimed at monocausality does not go far enough to explain the so-called conquest. Israel did not come entirely from outside, nor did a gradual sedentarization take place in a broad sense, nor did it exclusively arise from the population of the collapsed city-state culture. Nevertheless, it is striking that the settlements existed only for a very short period of time and were abandoned first in the highlands, then in Galilee, and in the Negev. Obviously, none of the theories discussed so far can alone explain the radical changes satisfactorily and completely. Thus, a combination seems preferable. The population of Israel comprised, to a lesser extent, semi-nomadic groups such as the Shasu, who came from outside, and to a greater extent, a mix of people who came both from the cities as well as the rural areas surrounding the cities. Intra-Palestinian movements of people also took place. For example, from North Palestine to Central Palestine, but also from the coastal plain inland. The entire process is to be placed in a broader temporal horizon ranging from the 12th to the 10th centuries BCE. A further example of that a one-size-fits-all explanation is unsatisfactory can be seen in the settlement of the Negev. Settlement there is now understood to have begun in the Iron 1B and early Iron 2A periods in the 11th and 10th centuries BCE, independently of the phenomenon of nomadism emerging in the urban centers of the Mediterranean coasts, in particular in Gaza. So there's more things going on at the same time, right? This regional development was closely related to the collapse of the Cypriot copper trade at the end of the Late Bronze period, which was then replaced in part by copper mining in the region of Fenon. The transformation of the copper trade may have acted as a trigger for some regional development, even though the relationship between early Iron Age village culture and late Bronze Age urban culture has not yet been conclusively clarified. It is already clear that diametrical comparisons cannot adequately describe the complexity of temporary coexistence. Excuse me. All in all, for the so-called conquest, a predominantly peaceful coexistence with the rest of the urban culture and an interest in joint development offers a much more accurate description of the process than competition and displacement. This is true both chronologically and culturally. A large part of social, religious, cultural, and economic life was more or less continuous during and beyond the Late Bronze Age. Israel developed to a large extent in and from Canaan, not against or by the destruction of Canaan. An ethnically closed group named Israel cannot be detected in the Iron One period. At present, the question as to when the Proto-Israelites understood and described themselves as Israel cannot be answered with certainty from an historical standpoint, not even with the Merneptah Stele, which is from the 1100s. Neither can an inseparable connection be established from the 13th century BCE, when the Israel of the Stele, nor the seamless continuity. Sorry, I said 1100s, I meant 1200s. From Israel of the 11th century BCE to the Israel that is extra-biblically tangible as a political entity beginning in the 9th century BCE. So that was a lot, but importantly, it's all saying essentially the same thing, right? The Israelites were Canaanites. there's a lot of movement into the region over a course of a long period of time. But importantly, the people who were there were always there and continued to be there. There was an obvious movement away from urban culture to this new village culture in the Highlands that coincided with the deterioration and the decline of urban culture that wasn't just happening in Canaan either, by the way. This was happening all across the Mediterranean, in just about every place except probably Egypt. Egypt was sufficiently isolated enough from the rest of the Mediterranean that there's a stronger sense of continuity within Egypt than in these other places. But what's happening in Canaan is happening in a lot of places. It's not special. It's not unusual. It's not unique. And it absolutely does not indicate that Israelites are coming in, destroying cities, and setting up in the area from the outside. It's just not what's happening. I mean, that's basically the end of Michael's presentation. There's a Q&A which follows. There's maybe a couple of interesting things in there. I don't know how much. How are you feeling, Vish? Do you want to it's 4:30. We've been going for like 2.5 hours.
I mean, I've just been looking up various significant volcanic eruptions over the last several thousand years.
Fun.
And
yeah,
it turns out that like in the early 1800s, when we get like the year without a summer and things like that, the conditions in the northeast of the United States were so bad that a bunch of people, like tens of thousands of families, apparently like depopulated Vermont and moved to the Midwest, where it was a little bit warmer. And this is like when Indiana and Illinois became states. And also apparently this is like when Joseph Smith's family left Vermont and moved to New York. And that's like one of the knock-on effects of him going on to found the LDS Church. Yeah.
Look at that, eh?
So yeah, it's that, and like looking up Mount Tambora, Mount Pinatubo, Krakatoa, all these different historical eruptions like Hekla, which would have happened around the time of the Bronze Age collapse. Like these are effects that when the temperature drops and your crops start failing, you get the heck out of Dodge and you try to find some place where your plants will grow.
It's better to live,
so,
right?
This is one of those things where people are like, oh my God, there's a new strain of disease happening or a new wave of cholera or something that happens. And it's like, we got to get out of here. So when you see, these large scale depopulations or a collapse or an influx of people, start looking at like nature. It's not just warfare. It's not just sociopolitical upheaval, because those things are often directly related to food scarcity. So, there were famous like food riots in France and Germany, also people fleeing Wales to get food. So these things tend to go hand in hand. And I suspect that, there's like a band of volcanoes around the Aegean that may or may not have erupted around that time. And these things completely upend a lot of your society. So you want to see collapse and chaos, mess with the food supply.
That'll do it, right?
And that makes sense. Like if you live in a city and food scarcity is a thing, you're going to start moving out into the middle of nowhere where you can grow your own food and farm your own animals, right? Like this is a lot of what the right-wing prepper culture does. They're like, oh, well, when the government takes over and society collapses, and they live out in the middle of like Montana on a ranch and they store food and they learn how to do canning and all the stuff. That's a natural human reaction. You can live in cities when you have a lot of resources, but
that's definitely what's happening here, right? It just I hope I mean, Michael has challenged people. I mean, what's maybe really hilarious in his Q&A, which follows, is somebody asks him about, somebody mentions Eric Klein and Eric Klein's fabulous work on the Sea People, and his terrific book 1177 BC, which I didn't. I have a passage from it that I didn't get to today, but it's an excellent book and everybody should read it. Somebody hilariously from the audience asks Michael Jones about debating Eric Klein.
You would get hosed.
I mean, I'd love
with him.
I'd love to see it.
Eric Klein's too nice, though. I don't think he would do a debate.
Yeah, no, he I honestly think he'd probably look and just go, I don't know why.
I don't debate facts.
Why would I do this thing? It's like,
yeah, that's the reason most scientists don't debate flat earthers. They're like, we don't debate facts.
Yes.
It's ridiculous.
So, Michael continues to look in vain for somebody to debate him on this issue. I personally think that's a terrible venue for presenting the facts of the situation. It took us 4 live streams of at least 2 hours each. Like, that's, I mean, we've been at this for oh my god, we've been at this for like feels like where is it?
It's the bullshit asymmetry principle in action.
Yeah. We've been at this for like
9 hours.
Oh, that's the one. Yeah. Yes, the bullshit asymmetry principle. And I feel like within the course of this this set of streams here, I hope that everybody can see that there is no model for the Exodus and the conquest, because those things didn't happen. There's just, the history of Canaan and the development of the region at this critical time when the world as people knew it for a period of about 350 years ended, and things shifted.
Can you imagine being some of the hill folk and just being like, all right, we're just gonna go chill with our flocks and stuff, and the city elites and the educated population keeps trying to get them in line and make them travel to do ritual stuff, or like, no, you're doing it wrong, and then they get deported to Babylon, and the people are probably like, thank God, they're out of my hair for a while.
They're gone.
Woo, thanks. Hell yeah. And then, however many years later, they come back and it's like, son of a bitch.
Oh, God.
It's even worse than before.
These assholes.
Again. Telling me I can't worship in Shiloh and Bethel and all my, hill country places.
All my hilltop shrines, they're not fancy enough for Yahweh anymore. What are you talking about?
You want me to go all the way down to Jerusalem?
Do you have any idea how far that is?
Freaking schlep all the way down there? You gotta be kidding.
No, somebody did. I'm contractually required to make one joke about Michael's tattoo per stream. Thank you. I do appreciate that. Not just one. He has more than one tattoo. It's on the thumbnail. Michael has tattoos on both of his forearms. One is a text from I don't remember what it is. It's it's my people die for lack of knowledge. What is that?
Wow, that's ironic.
I know. Is that Micah? I think that's Micah. Yeah, my people die for lack of knowledge. And then he's got a tattoo in Greek on the other arm. And I don't remember what that text is either. I mean, the ironic thing is in all this is that the text on both arms, Michael can't read. So he likes to talk about them every now and then too.
I just
these
think
texts.
it's cringe.
It really is. Don't get a tattoo, kids, unless you can read it.
Yeah, if you can't read the language of the tattoo, don't get the tattoo.
Not for you.
Yeah. Okay, couple super chats.
Yes.
Treeclum Chad, speaking of explaining what does your tattoo
there we
say?
go.
So yeah, this was related.
Very good. Thank you, Chad.
Jeremiah for 49, just here to give a to Vishanti's hat. Glad that everybody likes it. It was just kind of a impulse decision. Jeremiah again, choice. But did Israelites eat sauerkraut?
Why not? Oh, sauerkraut's awesome. So
atheism actually says there can be only one God. Sounds like something Highlanders would say, come to think of it.
Yes.
Very good. Polyed Lizard reminds me of how the Mayans abandoned their cities but continued their culture in much smaller rural villages. Yeah.
Similar, right?
I mean, and there's also
no explanation.
Yeah, I mean, look, climate change, famines, droughts, floods, diseases, like this, hurricanes, this stuff just happens. Those are some of the reasons that people deuce out of a city or abandon a city or whatnot. There's a lot of different reasons.
He keeps saying in this stream we watched today that he's like, this very strange thing happened. It's a very odd coincidence. What? It's not.
Maybe
and that's,
he should.
Maybe he should
spend less time with philosophy and more time with history and archaeology, and then they won't be strange. This is what I wish that the lost ancient high technology assholes would do. They're like, it just doesn't make sense that these people could do XYZ. And I'm like, it makes complete perfect sense if you know anything about archaeology and ancient civilizations. Archaeologists who study this stuff aren't like, oh, I just don't understand. They just couldn't have done this thing. It's like, yeah, they did. It doesn't take multiple soup. Yeah, this is funny. I once visited a Messianic church and they said that all Jews observed all parts of the law flawlessly at all times and all places. So have you considered Yeah, that's the thing about Messianics is they tend to think that there's only Orthodox Jews and Reform Jews who don't do any of it. It's like, no, that's not true. They're not. That's not true at all.
It's never been true.
And it's also very inaccurate to say like, oh, the Reform, they don't keep kosher. They don't do things that like, yeah, they do. They absolutely do. That's ridiculous. So, anyway.
All right. So is that it? Is that all we got
of them
for today?
Oh, this is one. Trilzabub, where do the consonants in Adonai come from if it's derived from vowel diacritics? So I think they're talking about Yud Hey Vav Hey.
Yes.
I think. But it's not always true that all of those letters are vowels. Like, so yeah. So this is one of those things where Adonai, the word Adonai, meaning my Lord, the vowels for that were put onto Yod Hey Vav Hey to try to clue the reader in to use.
The idea was that this is a word that you encounter and it'll clue you in because it's awkward. It's not a word that you should be able to pronounce easily. So it totally didn't stop the German theologians from turning it into Jehovah. But
and that's ridiculous. It's like, no, you're not supposed to pronounce it as Jehovah. That's not a thing.
See,
I will never stop dunking on Nehemiah Gordon for this. He's just like, no, I found all this evidence that it was pronounced Jehovah. And I'm like, no, dude, it wasn't. Like, we find Greek coins where Yah is like the first syllable preserved. So this is the whole thing. I don't really care. I get very frustrated at people who do stupid things.
I feel like this just reminds me of one of my favorite scenes in one of my favorite movies, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade,
Mhm.
And I write.
Yeah.
So I've got a discussion of the name Yahweh in my book, in chapter 6, and maybe this is a good way to take us out today, because I want to read this little bit here.
Real quick before you do, it's reform Jews, not reformed. That is an important distinction to make. It's the reform movement, not reformed. Right. That's a Christian thing. So, okay.
It's good.
Proceed.
So, yeah, so this is, yeah, it's one of my favorite little parts from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. The third installment of the Indiana Jones film franchise premiered in the late spring of my grade 10 year. And I and my friends went straight from school on opening night to stand in line for hours to get the best seats to see Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. In the climax of the film, Indy must pass a series of mortal trials in order to save the life of his father, dying inside the threshold of an ancient medieval shrine in the canyon of the Crescent Moon, located somewhere in the kingdom of Haiti or modern Turkey. And filmed, actually, like the setting for this in actuality is the city of Petra, located in Jordan, the kingdom of Jordan, which is just a spectacular place. Having narrowly passed the first deadly test, he happens upon a jumble of Latin letters carved on a cobblestone floor and a clue: the word of God. Only in the footsteps of God will he proceed. Indiana perceives that he must successfully pass through the corridor by stepping only on the correct letters etched on individual stones which spell out the name of God, Jehovah. He confidently puts his right foot forward and brings it down on the letter J, only to fall through the floor, catching himself before plummeting to his death. A rookie mistake. Idiot. In Latin, Jehovah starts with an I. Yeah. It's a great film, guys. All right. So Vish and I are going to be back tomorrow for another episode of Dapper Reacts at 3 o'clock Eastern, noon Pacific. And then we're going to be off until August. So I hope everyone has a good break from me. And I'll...
So good.
Very good.
So much.
I love you guys. I'm going to miss you because I love you so much. So be good. Stay safe.
Be excellent to each other. Hallelujah, Ratma. That was fantastic.
And as always. Yep. And as always, Ha Tikva.